So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, namaste, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 276th episode. In the last 275 episodes, we have talked to, interacted with more than 5,000 school leaders on this very platform where they've shared their ideas, opinions, innovation, and what all new are they doing in the education space. So today as well, we'll try to, unbox another topic, try to know from school leaders, from teachers, from university experts that what do they think about attention spans, and specifically why is the current classroom a little boring, is the current approach working amazingly well, or how the brain science typically looks at human brain and teaching and learning. So before we start the session, just some ground rules for everyone who's there on the call. Most importantly, Blub World Web Talks is a timed platform. So once your speaking time is over, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It's just to keep the activity crisp and entertaining for everyone. Secondly, when you see my hand up in the air or Blubword's hand up in the air, that simply means we are giving you a prompt that you have the next 30 seconds to conclude. So I hope you enjoy enjoy the next 60 minutes that you're here with us. Today's topic typically revolves around how does science think humans do learning? In a little technical language, we could go neuroeducation, how brain science proves traditional teaching is wrong. Let's bring in a simple context to this. 70 to 80% of memorized information that any human being memorizes is forgotten within 24 to 48 hours. Any human who hears to learn stuff can only retain 10% of it. 90% of all heard knowledge is lost. We spend nearly 12 to 13 years in a school where we focus only on that 10% zone. Because lecture mode is the world's most popular mode of education across schools. So what do school principals think? What do college leaders think? What are their opinions on this? That is science thinking it right, or our education is thinking it right? I'm not putting them against each other, but I will have to add some fire to the conversation. So let's keep them on these two sides. What do they think? Does the traditional approach work more? Or why do teenagers or specifically students hate lectures? So very warm welcome to all of you to the 276th episode. Let me invite the first speaker for today to initiate the conversation. A very warm welcome to Dr. Neha Jagtiani, the principal of RD and SH National College from Mumbai, Maharashtra, India. Dr. Neha, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Good morning. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. The beautiful thing about learning is that nobody can take it away from you. So, how do you decode this Gen Z, which is the 30-second reel generation? That is their only attention span. I would say, do people ask us AI tools? Is AI going to replace us? I think AI is going to aid us. It's like a knife. A knife can also kill someone, but it can also be used by a surgeon to cut and save the life. So it depends on the teacher, it depends on the educator, how we are going to use these AI tools. For example, we all know that our students are addicted to chat GBT. Today they can't write. There was a time we were writing on paper. The next Gen Z was typing. But today they are Gen Alpha, which is saying 2 plus 2, Siri, 2 plus 2, 4. That's how they go. So, in this, how do you remain relevant? In fact, at the Medical Association, they are really concerned because even in medical schools, the attendance has dropped to 25% because this generation cannot listen to a 55-year-old writing on the blackboard with chalk, where they feel that they can learn from 5 YouTube videos. What kind of doctors we are going to produce if they are learning from YouTube videos? So the important question for educators is, how do we remain relevant? The first one is, of course, we need to actively engage them, work on projects, let them develop their critical thinking, develop their logical thinking. Second is, how do we instill this drive in them? For example, when we were growing up, we wanted dogs because the dog is active and so are we. Today, this generation wants cats. Cat is sleeping, they're also sleeping. They're playing guitar to a cat who's looking at her nails. So, how do we instill this drive in ambition to achieve something? And that is where the role of the teacher comes in. Like former Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh said, we are drowning in the sea of information, but starved of real knowledge. Everyone knows everything, but Google has all the answers, but do we have the right questions? So it's extremely important. I think a teacher is the only one which influences infinity, and you never know where the influence is going to end. And we are in the best business developing minds because you never know about human progression. So, that I think is the role of a teacher. And that's the difference that we can make.
Thank you so much, Neha ma'am. And yes, the current generation has an even lower attention span. They need content that's superbly engaging. And for a teacher, without all the VR effects for them, it's very difficult for a teacher to engage the current Gen Alpha in a classroom. And you're very right, even for medical professionals, even for anyone who's right now going through education, the older format does not look chewable or even digestible. They don't want it. They know that I can get a superbly amazingly edited video of the same lecture on YouTube, and it's very tiring to listen to. You're very right, the teacher writing on a blackboard and consuming and comprehending that knowledge. Most importantly, human comprehension has also evolved. It used to be basic, but now with each generation, the genetic modifications that humans see, Homo sapiens see, we now consume content and understand it in very different terms. So the question rather is not how should the teacher remain relevant? The question rather is how would education remain relevant? Because the current format of education is going obsolete not by the day, but by the second. So we have to understand this and typically unbox this challenge of how do you keep education relevant? How do you keep it more than content consumption? Thank you so much, Nehaji. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mr. Anthony Sebastian Marian, the Vice Principal of ACE EduVenture Group from Georgetown, Penang, Malaysia. Mr. Anthony, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Namaste, everybody. I'm sure that's morning over that side, right? In Malaysia, it's the afternoon. So good morning to all of y'all. I'm not sure if anyone else from besides another country, but warm welcome to you as well. Okay, so for us, right, I would add something from what Miss Neha has said, right? Okay, very simple. First of all, we have to remove the box. Meaning to say, do you know that, we say that, think out of the box, do things out of the box. Basically, we should not have the box in the first place because we want to have fun, we want to enjoy. You must remove those kind of things because if not, you are blocked within that small frame. So I would say, right, as a student back then, I never do well in my studies. But then now I'm a teacher. For the past 10 years, I've been teaching and I love going to school. From not loving going to school, and now as a teacher, I love going to school. And what makes me love going to school is how the system has changed in our school. So what we do here is, right, we have fun with the kids and we are not rigid. So maybe I can give you an example. So maybe you guys can think, right, how the wire works with our students, right? I do my maths class. I teach maths. So I bring my students to swimming pool and I teach my maths class in the swimming pool. So what did I teach them? The topic speed. So basically, you know what? I get the kids to actually, do their own measurement of distance, and then, they can do their, I give them a choice whether you want to do a freestyle or breaststroke, and then you do your time, then you will get your average speed. So the kids get excited doing these kind of things. So that is just one thing. The other thing here is for me to start a topic, what I do here is, let's say, for example, if I want to start a topic for ratio, what I do is I bring a bottle of Ribena, it's like a sweet up, and a jug of water. Go in, we do experiment, and that's how they learn ratio. So basically what we are doing here is, right, we are catering to all types of learners. I'm sure you guys know that, the visual, the kinesthetic, and the auditory, right? So we are catering to every learner so that they can get excited about what exactly. So what happens here, right? We get the kids be captivated and get excited what's coming next. So the moment you cater to that, right, they will actually, it's like, I want to go to school tomorrow. I will wake up to school tomorrow. That kind of mindset that we have created. And also, as a teacher, how we bond with the kids. What is our relationship with the kids? It has to be very healthy, and we have to make sure that we get in touch very closely with them, and not just with the kids. We also connected very well with the parents. So it's a triangle thing. So basically, all three parties has to come together, and the kids should know that the parents are also part of this whole thing, because this is an ecosystem that you are working on. So these are some few things that I could share, that to tell you that how we do things differently, and excited going to school as a teacher and as a student who wants to come to school as well. So yeah, thank you. If you have any question, you guys can, shoot out to me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anthony. Let me try to summarize and at the same time put a little argument to the conversation. You talked about the different learning styles, but you'll be amazed and astonished to know since the time neuroscientific research has come into place, there is absolutely zero evidence on three types of learners. There are not three types of learners anymore. Now, scientific research clearly submits that everyone is an integrated learner. Everyone has three types of learning formats in their own brains, and they learn from all of this. This theory of three types of learners and three types of teaching styles is absolutely obsolete now. Not for the reason that it was wrong, but for the reason of change in stimuli. When you now give them video content, when you now give them, hyper powered content, that learning style typically merges with each other. So currently, neuroscience calls this learning styles a myth. I don't want to, belittle the point that you brought forth, but we all have to understand whatever we know becomes obsolete the next second. No, the shelf life of knowledge has depleted like anything. And anything that you learn goes down the drain so quickly that you're not able to monetize it. That's the biggest challenge of this Gen Alpha and Gen Z. Whatever they learn, will it give them money? Will it support their livelihood? Will it give them employability? Because whatever the reason why we are able to support our lives is because what we know. But now knowing is not being monetized. So that's the challenge that you have to look further into. Thank you so much, Mr. Anthony, for bringing this. And I think a very good example that you're doing is of the swimming pool thing that you mentioned. If a student is literally, put into work while learning mathematics, there won't be maths fear at all. So that's an amazing approach that you're taking. Thank you for sharing that with everyone. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Dr. Minakshi K. Narayanan, the principal for the Oxford English School from Bangalore, Karnataka, India. Minakshi, ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself.
Good morning and greetings to one and all present here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this. And I would like to actually start with a very, very small story to begin with. So, my story goes like this. Uh, when you can see an young child, okay, when a young child walks into a school, on the first day, he's very curious because he's excited. He has got full of questions in his mind. But what happens to the child is, as the student, he reaches the middle school, something happens. Changes happens in him. So the questions will reduce, the excitement fades, and the curiosity is nowhere to be found. See, the child did not become less intelligent here. The only thing is here, you cannot listen, you cannot memorize, or you cannot comply rather than what we used to learn. So, this is what actually the brain science is trying to tell us. Now, as Sir actually spoke about, nowadays you don't have, learners of these categories. You cannot categorize because each student is an individual. I see them like that. So, in one line, if I have to say, see, today's learners are more visual, experiential, purpose driven. They know what they want. And they are actually much more intelligent as more than what we were in their age, to be frank with you. And they are collaborative and they are emotionally aware and also curious only when the environment allows them to be. So, we have to create an environment where the curiosity in them always persists. So that is where we have to be going to. So these, I have just jotted down only 2, 3 points. So first, we should understand that the brain is not a passive receiver. So the brain is always working, even in our absence, it works. That's the work of a brain. So here, what is the neuroscience telling us is the child does not learn only by listening. The child is learning even in his sleep, even unconsciously also, right? And even when the brain switches off, the question is still there in his mind. So that is the curiosity we have to bring in. The second point would be we used to memorize. If you see the tables in maths or any formula, a2 plus b2 whole square, 2ab plus 2ab, all this we used to mug up for the exam. Now, if you tell the student, they don't know how to mug up, they just cannot do it. So, this traditional teaching where rote learning is there, it is not going to help us. Instead, you can actually teach through story, pattern, and experience, not with only the facts, but you should actually, teach them in such that they understand the concept. The third point would be actually like fear blocks learning. What I have seen, like how means, see, one classroom, you have so many children, and once when you believe that in one classroom all the children are taught and they are going to learn from you, no, it is not like that. Nowadays students have stress, and the stress shuts the brain down. A frightened child or a stress bust child, any stress it can be, they don't obey. Okay, they will not even listen to you. They cannot think deeply, they cannot be creative, they cannot be critically thinking also. So that is a safe brain is a good learning brain.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meenakshi. The first 3 minutes were over, but we'll try to come back to you during the open floor. So, a very important point that you mentioned, uh, the learning process is not happening in the classroom. It was the earlier belief that when you are teaching, that's the point that they're, consuming and consolidating that knowledge. That's not really happening. What neuroscience clearly establishes through research and experiments is that learning, or rather the absorption of whatever content you gave them, happens not in the classroom, it happens in the bedroom. The sleep time is the time for consolidation. That is the time that whatever you have taught them in school, that's when the brain processes it and makes that knowledge their own. So relaxation, sleep, that's superbly more critical with neuroscience experiments. That's what it currently shows. So if you're cutting into their sleep, if you're giving them any sort of, not any sort of, but some sort of excess stress, it will automatically turn off their consolidation. They won't be able to make that knowledge their own. They'll hear content. They might be able to, remember some snippets of it, but that knowledge won't become knowledge. It'll only stay content. That content to knowledge transformation happens when they're alone, when they're sleeping, when they're relaxing. Thank you so much, ma'am, for bringing this point forth. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Dr. Musab Aswad, who's the Academic VP for Nasser Center for Science and Technology, Khalifa City from Bahrain. Dr. Musab, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. Regarding this, we hear about so many ideas from our colleagues. It's about a system. It's a full system. You cannot work alone. As Mr. Anthony, he said he's using the swimming pool for the students. How many teachers doing like this in your school? What is the percentage of these teachers? If you are alone, you cannot change the world. So we have to build the full system in the same situation. So we have, as a teachers or as a educators, we have to adapt with the new technology and the transformation of the digital, like using AI. We have to adopt. This is mandatory. Or the kids, they are using these tools. So we have to start rebuild our system. We have to work with our traditional teacher to adapt them with the new system that they have to start and link the previous knowledge from the students. The students, they already, before they start learning language, they know what is the speed, what is the force, but by doing it. So when he's 4 years old, he knows that. But you have to link this concepts with his knowledge. This is the applied knowledge and applied science. When you link the knowledge and the reality, what is the math? What is the benefit of that in your real life? So when we start working on that and changing the whole system, so we are success to reach our points. So based on the teacher and change the central learning from teacher to the students. This will solve our problem. Let the student try and try and try, and then after that he will success to reach the right knowledge. I will give you one example. When I was a teacher in the computer science department before 15 years, I worked with the student on programming. So we built a small robot and starting go left, right, forward, then turn on and turn off. This is the concept. So they are playing, they are doing the concept. Then after that, I explain for them what is the if condition, what is the loop, what is the end and the close, what is the code, why if we change this line before this line, it will not work. So this is the concept. We have to start with apply. Then after that, shifting to the traditional. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Musab. And yes, when you teach programming, it's a very logical way of teaching reasoning and how logic typically works. You always have to follow a flow chart or create a flow chart of how your instruction or your line of code is being read by the system that you're putting it into. For humans as well, I think we should start learning in flow charts. It's far more effective. When you know the relationships of two concepts, that's where education really happens. When you're able to put ideas together and build a consolidated image of how the world around you is working, that's wisdom. That's what we're trying to build through education. So, the connection, the flow charting, how do you maneuver around different ideas? That's education. So we'll have what Dr. Musab said in the beginning. I think it's very important. One teacher can experiment. They can make the lives of some students blissful. But now is not the time when a single teacher can transform things. Teachers across the globe have to come together. It has to be a part of mainstream conversation that whatever we are doing is not working. We have to establish this in the front of policymakers, in front of all the people available to us, so that there at least an intention of change comes at play. Because when that intent becomes important, it converts into policy. That's the way politics works globally. That when a lot of people intend for something, then policymakers step in. We run an institution called the World Teen Parliament, where we have teenagers from more than 50 countries who come together every year. And we give them the access to connect with more than 100, 150 members of parliament from multiple countries within that 1 year. And what we could realize by doing this for the last 4 years now was policy making is the most important skill every human has to know. Because when you have AI, when you have all the tools available to you, the only thing that will stop you from growth is the policy decision taken by a policymaker. If they say a 16-year-old cannot be there on the social media, you don't have a say in it. That becomes the reality of life, whether you like it or not. So we have to understand education. If you need reforms, if you think reform is needed as teachers, as educators, you have to change the conversations. Thank you so much, Dr. Musab, for bringing this into the conversation. It's very important that unless you don't scale up the change, it's just an experiment. And it's not time to keep experiments anymore. Thank you so much, sir. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Ms. Nidhi Cherian, the head of school for Delhi Public School, Bangalore, Karnataka, India. Ms. Nidhi, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you for having me and a very good morning, whatever your time line is. I would like to define what you said about traditional education. I would like to define what that is in the beginning itself, because I am not against tradition in certain sense. If we look at the Indian education system, going very much back, we had the Gurukul system where the teachers and learners used to stay at the guru's place or the teacher's place and work in an experiential mode where they are debating and they are working together. They are also working on the ethical issues, whether it is war, even for warfare, there would be conversations. So there is, I believe, a reason why even Amartya Sen, gave us the adjective argumentative Indian. So what you are quoting as traditional education came during, I believe, during probably the industrial era or colonization, when mass education was brought into picture. And the point was to create a certain system where you have a lot of people who will adhere to not curiosity, but they will comply with whatever you would like to achieve. Now, coming to neuroscience, as a person from a Cambridge school in Bangalore, we are proponents of experiential learning. Yes, I totally accept the point that if it is rote learning, or basically your lectured method, your brain is just getting bombarded with information and there is no retainment. I totally agree with it. But we all work in a system where there is a standardized procedure at the end. So the school's adapts method, I totally agree with what Mr. Anthony said and what Mr. Musad has brought into question. I totally agree with it. And I personally believe that Bahrain has done a beautiful job with your standardization. I worked with BQA. They have done a fantastic job. So yes, learning should be done in a certain way where children will grasp more. The effectiveness of that should be applied globally. But I think practice with purpose is not to be omitted entirely. Okay, and we should have spaced learning. That is what I believe Mr. Gaur is saying. Spaced learning should be there, and I also believe we should give a lot of importance to mentorship, where the system of communication with a mentor and a student should be brought up in such a manner that we should give a lot of emphasis to our teachers as to how they are navigating the new spaces, including the AI that has come into our midst. So, yes, effective education, I believe, has always worked with the brain and not against it. So, we need to adapt, yes, though rooted in.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nidhi. The first 3 minutes were over. You're very right. When we say traditional education, we mean when we scaled education to becoming a tool of educating people at large, when we wanted to do it in masses. That's when the lecture mode really came into being. That's when we thought, it's good when we could bring people together, teach them something, and they could follow protocols. Because that was the core purpose of education during industrialization. We needed people who could listen, who could collaborate. Because if you look at anthropology and if you look at human history, the only reason why Homo sapiens are one of the most successful races on the face of this earth is because of this simple reason. We are able to create stories and make people believe on those stories. Like money is a story, nation is a story, religion is a story, justice, the idea of justice. Nature does not have justice. This is not an organic word that comes from nature. There is no justice in nature. But justice is a story that so many billions of humans believe in. So that's the importance of following protocols as human society. We need it to grow. But the challenge that this very society is following right now, the ability to follow protocols is obsolete with AI coming in. Because AI can do it far better than even Homo sapiens. And by the time, which is expected to be in the next 3 years, we have AGI, artificial general intelligence. The question would not be, do we need AI or not? The question would be, do we need humans anymore? Let's ponder on this as well. But some very important points that Ms. Nidhi brought to the conversation. Thank you so much for that. Let me invite the next speaker to add more to the conversation. I might be offending some of the people on the call, but I don't want to do it. But I have to be the devil's advocate. Otherwise, the conversation will go lull. So I'm trying to bring in just some more points. I hope everyone takes it in the right spirit. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Ms. Rohini Aima, the Principal cum Vice Chairperson for Jammu Sanskriti School from Jammu and Kashmir, India. Mrs. Rohini, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Namaskar, everyone. First of all, thanks for having me on this platform. So wonderful, of course, conversation. I've heard my fellow speakers about neuroeducation, and all of us believe in one thing, that the old-fashioned traditional methods of rote learning and teaching, what we used to teach, that one size fits all, no more works with the children. Because every child, I feel, is a unique and with the different capabilities and different abilities. And neuroeducation, what we talk about today, is a combination of course, neuroscience, psychology, and education. And when we integrate these things, then only we can achieve what we intend to, as in the theme of learning outcomes for our children. So most importantly, all of us talked about that differentiated learning, of course, is important. But I feel the classroom where the children understand, that is the most vibrant place for children. The classroom has to be very engaging if we really want to achieve something. And there should be positive, atmosphere in the classroom. Unless the classroom has a positive atmosphere, children cannot concentrate, they will not be engaged what we want to engage them for in. So classroom has to be a very, very positive atmosphere, so that there is no stress in the children, and children are taking it happily, whatever we want to teach. Now, if we want to make the classroom positive, it has to be engaging and differentiated learning styles to cater for. I feel the most important thing is teachers training as per this. So teachers need to be trained to cater to these needs. They need to have the strategies to cater to the engaging classroom, for experiential learning, for, if I say, differentiated teaching styles. So teachers training is the most important thing in today's time if we want to really work on for the neuroeducation, to bring in that experimentation into the classroom. Now, for me, if in the school live example I want to give, like very traditional method, photosynthesis, everybody teaches in the classroom when they take up the book and then they teach the photosynthesis. But does it really make the impact on the child when it's only taught from the book? Or maybe they draw on the board some drawings, or we integrate with the audiovisual on the LED panels or smart classrooms. So what we did, we sent some of the classes, sections of the same class, outside to experiment, sowing the seed and plant growing up with some of the pots going outside, and some of the classes in the classroom only. So difference in the learning outcomes was really, really vast between the two sections. So this really gave us the insight, not only to us, even to the parents we involved into it, that whatever they are doing with their hands, the most importantly experiential learning and real life connect, that is very important. What we teach them should have some real life connect with the children. That's how they.
Thank you so much, Rohini ma'am. The first 3 minutes were over, but I think an important point, the classroom has to now transform. It cannot be a classroom anymore. It has to be a new structure. There has to be, you have to break the limits or the structural limits of a classroom. Because the student is right now on very high stimuli. When they consume video content in any format, it, grasps their attention so quickly, because there are so many neuroscientists really working on those videos, that how can we, catch every single shred of attention that somebody is giving to that video. So at this point, an approach of, taking students out of the classroom, an approach of, converting education into experiences is critical. It's not optional anymore. And I think this is a very important point that we have to understand. Let's try to redefine the classroom. The idea is very simple. We are not trying to, ask everyone to leave whatever they're doing right now, leave whatever traditional is there in place. But we'll have to figure out, we'll have to ideate, how should a classroom now look like when we don't want people following protocols? We need people solving problems. And we need them solving complex problems, not simple problems. So the classroom has to find a new definition. Thank you so much, Ms. Rohini, for bringing this to the conversation. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Vishakha Gupta, the principal of Beacon High Public School from Pune, Maharashtra, India. Mrs. Vishakha, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
you so much for having me here on this platform. My humble pranams to all the educators. I would like to start by saying, although a few may not like it, but I believe this is the hard fact reality that we are a 19th century generation using 20th century tools to teach the 21st century children. And the day we accept it, I think half the task is done. Also, I would like to give you an example of a story. I read this somewhere, that there was a truck that got stuck under a bridge. And there were engineers and there were construction people and, people from the company, the truck company, how to, cut the truck and bring it out of the bridge. And the civil, mechanical and civil people were saying, we'll have to chip off the bridge. And the people said, no, we'll have to, get machines to cut the truck. A child standing close by said, why don't you try and deflate the tires? It would lower the truck by good 4 or 5 inches. So we have to understand that our children have a differentiated approach, and that differentiated approach has to be accepted, involved, and taken ahead. Also, design thinking is something when we bring it into our curriculum works beautifully well, because the retrieval practices, that is the recalling of the info, is very important at the right point of time. We say the school teaches, but don't the children learn things even before coming to school? They do, right? The ad also says brain ka vikas 8 saal ki umr tak ho jata hai, in which 4 years are at home, right? Then spaced repetition is also something which is of primary importance, which is reviewing the material over time. And the various reviewal methods have to be put in by the educators, right? Because learning is not a one-day thing, it's a prolonged process. So as Mr. Daksh very rightly said, that processing happens when the child reaches and touches the bed. I think that's very important to understand that no, we are not in a switch off and a switch on mode in a class. The teacher says, okay, keep the maths book inside and take out the English book and we'll start English. We are putting the child in a switch off and switch on mode. Why can't we relate what the child did in the maths class to bring him to the English lecture? And that is where it would work, because the brain is malleable. It forms new connections. So the teachers have to understand that and take it forward. I very much agree with ma'am. The teachers' training is very important, because the teachers have to be trained how to bring the switch in and switch off, because they need to understand, we need to understand that A is not always an apple. It could be an aeroplane, an antelope, and maybe something else according to the child. So the absorption of information is different for each child, which is why we have to accept, adopt, and adapt, unlearn and relearn. We have to change ourselves to bring about that change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vishakha ji, for adding this to the complete conversation. We have to change, we have to accept, because a system runs because of certainty, but a system dies because of certainty. We need chaos for growth. We need challenge for growth. So right now, we are all in that transitionary phase of chaos. Now, how do these adults or these educators think of education defines whether education in the current format lives or dies? If we are ready to embrace the chaos, we might be able to do something revolutionary. But if we still are looking for certainty, then it is certain that it won't exist the way it is. So we have listened to all the speakers for today. We are nearly at the conclusion of the session. Now is an open floor for the next 1 or 2 minutes. If anyone wants to add something, if there's some point that you forgot, something that you want to add to the conversation before the call comes to an end, just raise your hand. I can invite you next for a couple of minutes. Anyone who wants a minute to say something, to add anything to the conclusion, please feel free to do it during this open floor for the next 1 minute. Otherwise, we'll be moving towards the conclusion of the call. I think Neha ma'am wants to say something, and then Dr. Musad. So first over to Ms. Neha for a minute, and then to Dr. Musad for a minute. Over to you. Yes, ma'am. Neha ji, please.
Yeah. So just very quickly, if you hire a machine, you get exactly what you get: a computer, the CPU, the keyboard, the mouse. At the end of it, the value is zero. But if you hire a pair of hands, a human resources, you never know that person for lack of opportunity in the next 10 years could be the CEO of the company. And that's what I always feel, that no one can predict human progression. Boy playing in the bylanes became Sachin Tendulkar, coming from Allahabad, tall man became superstar. So it's very important that we just can't predict human progression. And that's what I feel, that the teachers just need to be facilitators to make them achieve their true potential. We're only going to help them recognize their skills and be the best version of themselves and be the best brand that they can become.
Thank you so much, Neha ma'am. I think you just verbalized the biggest fear of every single corporate. That's why they don't want to hire humans and want to hire technology, because they don't know how will this human progress in the whole system. But you are right from the perspective of an educator. But that's, I would say, the nightmare of every single corporate or big scale company on the face of this earth. Over to Dr. Musab for your point.
Thank you very much. Regarding the applied education and early education, as we started in Nasser Center, as we are technical school for grade 10 to 12. So we are focusing at the beginning and establish on the engineering side only, mechanical, electrical. But when I became a coordinator for computer science department at 2018, I started a new program for 3 years for the IT students, and specialized in AI and cloud computing. And this is a challenge. This is new in the area. There is no such a program in the area with a full 3 years program focusing on IT. And in parallel with the math, physics, and these concepts, we are teaching the AI and the cloud computing, and now we're launching cybersecurity. This is a challenge and a new, but we have a new generation that they have required the skills, but their skills is higher than the student and the college. So we have this challenge now. Our students level, let's say, 20% of the knowledge in IT, and they went to the college and they found the traditional way. They are wasting their time, at least at the two first year in the college. So we are working to map, but alone you cannot do something. You have to collaborate with the universities, with the schools, with the early, with the elementaries. Everyone in the system should be working on the same rhythm. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Musab. And I think what you're telling us is a global phenomenon now. This is something that can be seen across countries, that when a student is now going into a specialized degree or enrolling into a specialized degree in a university, finds himself or herself wasting time because they nearly know what the teacher is teaching in their first or second year of college. This is the reason why the challenge is becoming even more imminent, why this needs immediate attention. Because we can see that humans are growing at a faster pace than the growth mechanism we have set for them. That mechanism is not able to add to their growth. They are bringing in far more advanced concepts and ideas to a classroom that classroom is not equipped to handle. So this is the reason the education or the structure needs a quick and a far bigger reform. I think Rohini ma'am wants to add something. Ma'am, for the next 60 seconds, over to you. We'll have to conclude the session then. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I wanted to add that life has many unpredictable moments. We have already seen during the COVID, and even if people did not know anything, it was the brain power we used, what to be done, and how we can, reach out to the children and the people. So many paths, memorable times, I feel, explore the new paths and cherish the moments, that memories we have made in the past. So let's explore the new paths. That's very important. And that is done by the teachers for the students, and students, of course, themselves. They need to be left alone to experiment and explore. This is what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rohini ma'am. I hope everyone, if anyone wants to add something, you can still raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll move to the conclusion. Superb. So we have listened to all the speakers for today. The idea behind this conversation was very simple. We wanted to bring forth what all is happening in the right intent, in the right way, and what all is not happening in the right intent or the right way. Now, why is neuroscience important? Why are we talking, about all of this? Because we know our human brains better. So we can predict a little better. We can judge humans a little better. And that's the way education really happens. The core skill that a human has to develop is the ability to judge. That's wisdom. That's education. That's your experience. The ability to judge anything, whether it is useful, whether it is good, whether it is bad. This core capability is what makes humans better than all the other species. So when neuroscience can do it, we all understand the biology of humans. Curiosity is the biological save button, and stress is the delete button. This is something that we know for sure. But the challenge is when stress comes in, innovation happens. So it's a balance of this. It's typically a dance of all these characters coming together and trying to build the kind of, opera that you might want to see. But are we equipped to train them? So what we now know for sure, after talking to so many principals on this, and even during this episode, education cannot be education anymore. It has to be experience. If you can give them an experience of all that's there in a textbook, learning would happen on its own. Teaching is no more a craft. Helping them navigate is the craft. Because experiences are easily available. We had to teach because we did not have experiences. But now experiences are available. So the best schools are the ones who are able to give education as an experience. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the Blub World Web Talks. This was the 276th episode. I hope you enjoyed, and it was an amazing conversation with all of you. Thank you so much for taking out the time. Hope to see you soon again at the Blub World Web Talks. Namaste. I am Daksh. Bye-bye.